Hey guys, you're watching The Real Deal with Keith Trent, reporting live right here at our think tank room at TNE headquarters. So for October issue, I was able to watch some really powerful and moving pieces this month. They were very hard to watch, but for all the right reasons. So first off, I want to start with Free Indeed. This movie was actually based on actual events that happened with a struggling single mother who was dealing with a child with a mental illness, and her coming to grips with how to deal with that without her baby's father or financial stability, and just dealing with that whole situation. She ends up turning to the church and feels that she has to heal her child through the powers of God, and she ends up getting into a relationship with one of the prophets there who is considered a healer. And the relationship between Melba, who's played by Edwina Finley, and brother Abe, that is played by David Harwood, and dealing with their son Benny, played by Ray J. Chandler, is just such a powerful dynamic. One, because you know it's a true story, and mental illness is something that I feel like we deal with in the Black community a lot, and we don't have the greatest resources a lot of times in the neighborhoods in which these people are coming up to deal with such a complex matter. And so this woman who doesn't have a husband or a boyfriend to look to, and the father has another child, a daughter, that does not have this illness and has to grow up watching this, and she's just, the mother herself is just trying to take care of herself, dealing with this issue, then leading to the Black church in that community, was just very interesting to see how that whole dynamic worked out, especially because brother Abe is his own, in his own way, a troubled character, and dealing with his own inner demons that he's overcome through God as well. So it's just this different dynamic of two people trying to come to God and become stronger in God and deal with very complex situations. And just the way it plays out is very, very interesting. We also have this month featured with Edwina Finley a phone interview in which he talks deeper about the movie. So not only can you get just my perspective, but you can hear it straight from one of the amazing actors that was a part of the film. And also just know that the movie is now available on iTunes, so you can see that at any time. If you go to iTunes or Amazon, you can find it free indeed. Okay, so guys, definitely keep a lookout for that one. The next one I want to talk about is First They Killed My Father. Now, this particular story is also based on a real life character. The young girl who is the focal point of the entire story, it is based on the life of the character in which he is playing, who wrote the story after having escaped a regime. First They Killed My Father is a gripping piece directed by Angelina Jolie. It is the story of a very close friend of her named Lao. Name is very hard to pronounce. I'm not going to try not to mess it up. But Lao, and she wrote memoirs back in 2000 about her story of surviving Cambodia when Khmer Rouge took over in 1975. Now, this was around the time of the Vietnam War, and Nixon had pulled all his troops out of there and decided to remain neutral, or so he said, remain neutral, while he was still in the midst of fighting the Vietnam War. And Cambodia kind of fell into this place where they're stuck in the middle. And it was during that time that the Khmer Rouge took over and as a militia group, and basically committed a huge genocide during the history of that culture. It's a time that was very troubling for their culture, and it was told vividly through the eyes of this young girl whose father was actually a high-ranking government official. And basically the Khmer Rouge's plan was to basically take everybody who was in the government, because they felt like they were pushing this Western culture and that they kind of bowed down to the Americans and they wanted them out. And basically this young girl and her entire family had to try to blend in with the everyday working people, even though they had come up more wealthy because her father was a high-ranking official. And it's just this harrowing story of all that her family had to go through and her brothers in trying to survive this place in which the Khmer Rouge has taken over. Angelina Jolie did a fantastic job of really capturing the essence of Cambodia. Everything was shot in locations out there. Lao Un herself was very much a part of the film, being it as her story, and Angelina Jolie's son actually helped work with the screenplay and the directing of it because he was born in Cambodia, and so she definitely wanted him to find out more about his culture and his upbringing and some of the things that his people had to go through, and that comes across very apparent in the film. It talks a lot. It shows a lot about the culture, the way it is shot. Through this little girl's eyes, you get to really see the complexness of this culture who's fighting to keep their culture alive, but the way in which they're being forced to do it is such a violent and crude way. You get to see the Vietnam War from a completely different perspective as well. And I just feel like everything came together in a very powerful way. You will definitely not leave the same. I would make sure you have some tissues on the side waiting for you, because it is very intense, but it's one of those kind of movies that's intense in the ways that you just can't look away, because these are the things that we need to see in a very soft society where a lot of times we can feel out of touch from all the crazy things going on around us. I think this is a very powerful and unnecessary film, and definitely eye-opening for those of us who don't know very much about a lot of the big moments in different Asian cultures. Cambodia especially, because I feel like they're one of the places that you just hear about some of the struggles of their people financially, but you don't really hear anything about like their history and their culture. The next film I want to talk about is one that definitely was close to my heart, and I knew that I had to write about it because it's something that is directly related to me. It is Time, the Khalif Browder story. It's a story, the true story in documentary style, of a young man who was basically railroaded by the system. Another young African-American male who was arrested and then jailed falsely. It talks a lot about the horrible prison system and the way that it works in New York, where I'm from. The setup of Rikers and how it is really designed to break people and make them plead to lesser charges just so that lawyers and judges don't have to do their jobs and try cases properly. It also shows like the way in which jail overpopulation and how our men fall under the cracks is very prevalent, and how it destroyed the life of this one man specifically. And I feel like it's a very important film for all people to watch, especially people of color, because it really just opens your eyes as to how the system works and the mayors that we've had in the past and the judges and the lawyers and the people that we need to hold responsible for making sure that things are very different moving forward. Lastly, I want to talk to you guys about Hitman Bodyguard, starring Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson. It is one of my absolute favorite movies of the month. It was great to have something a little bit lighter. It was everything you want in an action comedy. Great car chases, hilarious banter between Samuel L. Jackson and Ryan Reynolds. Then we add in Salma Hayek as Sam Jackson's wife, just this beautiful, spunky Latina who doesn't take any junk, and so her scenes were some of the best scenes in the movie. She just really stole the show with her great comedic moments and her allure as that just crazy chick that doesn't play any games, like you better get your stuff together, and just how Sam Jackson's character was drawn to that love story. Also with Ryan Reynolds and his co-star, like their little love story going on, plus all the action and the big scenes. They just did everything right. They got the right actors, they had the right plot. It never tries to be more than it is, and if you love a good action comedy, this is the one for you. Thanks guys again, and for full reviews, make sure you check out the magazine. We have some great interviews this month and great reviews. Thanks guys for watching The Real Deal with Keith Trent.